Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Well, today I'm going to be showing you how I made these Togruta Lekku and montrails. So let's get started. These are entirely made out of EVA foam, which is a surprise because I usually just 3D print stuff. This is new. What's going on? Who are you? What have you done with Michelle? I really wanted a pair of Lekku. I was originally looking at getting some silicone Twirlick Lekku for TikTok cosplay, but they were quite expensive and not a lot was in stock when I was looking, and I kind of wanted them then and now. I didn't feel like waiting 6 months for them to arrive. So I've had a look on Etsy to see if there were any patterns that would use foam or silicone or anything so that I could actually make my own. I ended up finding this really cool one for a Togruta Lekku on Etsy, and I will link that in the description below. This particular pattern was made by Lilith Cosplay, and I really liked it, but there are plenty on there, and they're pretty cheap as well. As I'm not super comfortable using foam, I usually just 3D print stuff as I've mentioned, I kind of wanted to give this a shot and go out of my comfort zone a little bit, and hopefully learn some skills for how to actually make foam stuff because it's so much cheaper. All in all, this took me about 2 days. 1 day for actually assembly and cutting out all the pieces, another day for the painting and drying. So it was really quick. Great last minute cosplay. For this particular build, you will need 2mm EVA foam. You will need paint of some sort. I just use acrylic. You could probably use spray paint as well. This part here was the only spray paint I used for this entire build, just because it's a pretty gold. You will also need some way of actually gluing the foam pieces together. Usually I use super glue, but today I thought I'd actually use what you're supposed to use. Wow, this is a weird video. What's going on? I'm actually using the correct things. Am I a proper cosplayer? What's going on? But we're gonna use contact cement, and this is the one that I used. I purchased the foam and the contact cement by a shop called Lumin's Workshop, and that was really cool. They had a whole bunch of awesome stuff. They do a lot of cosplay things, so if you're in Australia, that's probably a good alternative for you. You will also need a heat gun, although in this case I just used the hairdryer. Oh, here we go, back to normal me, using the wrong things. And you will also need something to sand down the edges. I use a rotary tool for this, which is my tool of choice. If you're already doing a lot of cosplay things, you probably have a lot of these things already. I myself had to purchase the foam, the contact cement, which cost me about, I think it was something like under $50. So it's pretty cheap considering 3D printer. This guy over there would have cost me maybe $100, $200 to print something like this, so well worth it. And don't worry, all the links will be in the description below so that you can check out these shops and buy them yourself if you'd like these. But without further ado, let's get started. So the pattern has been sitting on my floor for the last couple of days, and it's literally just collecting dust, so I think I'm gonna cut it out and glue these pieces together so it's all ready to go when the foam finally arrives. So eventually the foam did arrive, and I was so excited about this because I had never used foam in any other form than the EVA floor mats that you can get at Bunnings Warehouse. So having this foam in 2mm, it sort of just opened my eyes to how much more I could do with foam if you have the right materials. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay out the foam nice and flat. It was rolled up into a tube, so we need to make sure that it's not going to curve too much. And I'm going to start laying out all of the pieces. Now, ideally, I want to try and maximize my efficiency here. I don't want to waste too much foam because I want to use it in other projects as well. I got really lucky with this. I bought 4 of these 1 meter by 0.5 meter sheets and I only ended up using 1, so I've got plenty left over for other projects. There's a few ways you can go about cutting these out. I end up using a scalpel knife, but you could also use scissors if you really wanted to. Also, make sure you don't throw out the pattern after this stage, because the pattern has these little letters on it that show you where everything lines up. You also want to mark those onto your foam, as well as the lines, because the lines show you how to actually line up the pieces. All of this is super important. You really need to keep a note of all of these markings. And once you've got all your pieces cut out, you can actually start assembling. So to do this, we're going to be using contact cement, which is actually what you're supposed to use when building with foam. Like, look at this, I'm actually using the right stuff for once. This is weird. And you actually don't need too much of this stuff. You sort of put it on, allow it to get a bit tacky, and then you should be able to line the pieces up and they'll glue fairly instantly if it's at the right consistency. But if you're impatient like me, you can also use a heat gun, or in this case a hairdryer, to heat up the glue, which will get it to that tacky consistency a lot quicker. This did take a little bit of getting used to, but by the end of it, I was really confident with putting all these pieces together with this glue. I'm actually using a skewer to apply the glue. I'd probably recommend using a brush, I just didn't want to ruin any of my brushes. And of course, with all toxic substances, make sure you're doing this in a well-ventilated area. And so here you can see me using a heat gun or the hairdryer to heat up the glue to the right consistency so it will glue instantly. Keep in mind that heat is actually really good for shaping foam as well, and we'll use that later on to get the nice curve of the lekku. So that's one side of the headdress complete. Let's get the other one done too. Yep, very good. So as I mentioned before, heat is great at getting foam to do what you want, and here I'm using it to get the foam to curve into a nice circular cylindrical sort of shape for the Lekku. But now that everything is glued together, we're going to go in with a rotary tool to clean up all of the edges. Foam dust is not something you want to breathe in, and neither is this glue, so make sure you do this in a well ventilated area and wear some sort of facial protection. Now, once you've finished using this tool on all of the edges, getting them nice and smooth and sanded down, you want to go in with your heat gun, or in this case the hairdryer, to seal the foam back up again. This will ensure that you don't have any dust lying around on your finished product. It'll just seal it all up. It's absolutely great, and you can also make sure you've got the shape right during this phase as well. So now the main portion of the Lekku and Montrails is complete, and we can try it on. Now this is where it gets fun. We're going to go in and paint everything. I went in with just acrylic paint in white to give it a nice base coat. I'd actually recommend using spray paint at this stage. I just ran out and I couldn't be bothered to go to the shop, so I just used acrylic paint and I brushed it on. But this did mean that I had to do like 5 coats to get a nice even coverage. The good thing about acrylic paint though is you can sort of fill in the gaps a little bit if you have any gaps in the joints, but you can also use gesso primer for this, which I'd probably recommend, but I take shortcuts. I'm a little bit lazy, I'm sorry. And I also tried applying this with a tissue or like some paper towel to get a bit more of an even coverage, but it didn't really work that well, so I went back to the paintbrush in the end. But once that base coat was complete, I could go in with the markings. Now for the markings of this Togruta OC, I was sort of taking inspiration from Ahsoka Tano, especially her portrayal in The Mandalorian. I wanted some patterns that looked a little bit older, but not too old, and this is sort of what I came up with. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. I really like the crimson color, I like the look that it gives the character. And these were a lot of fun to paint, so if you do end up doing a project like this, just have some fun with it, go crazy, just put some paint down, see how it looks, you'll really enjoy it. So once the markings were all done, we're almost finished guys. But I didn't want the transition from my face to the headdress to be sort of jarring and weird. I wasn't going to put any putty or anything like that to sort of blend the transition, so I wanted to hide it. To do this, I'm adding a sort of like crown tiara sort of headband thing around the edge of the Lekku. So I'm just taking a piece of foam, lining it up to the edge of the Lekku, cutting that out, and I'm just going to muck around a little bit and come up with a design. And once I was happy with that design, I actually cut out a second one because we're going to layer these foam pieces together. This is going to create a little bit of depth, a little bit of detailing, and make it look something a little bit more than just a piece of foam slapped on there. So here I'm actually cutting out like an outline from the second piece, and this is going to be glued on the top of the first with a contact cement. Then we can give the piece a quick coat of some gold glossy spray paint and it's going to look really pretty. Any sort of metallic spray paint is going to look awesome for this, but you could also try to make it look like leather if you'd like. And once that's dry, we're going to take some more contact cement and put it on. And don't forget you can go in there with a heat gun just to get that curve nice and flush. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making these and they are so comfortable, they are so cool. I just absolutely love them and I can't wait to use them in TikTok videos and cosplays. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. I'm not super comfortable and skilled when it comes to building things out of foam, but this pattern was so easy to follow and it turned out really cool, so I'm really glad I gave it a shot and I would love to make some more foam props in the future. Anyway, that's all from me, so I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!